Here is the honest reason why I will not stay in Australia forever and most likely will move back to the UK where I'm originally from. Hello guys and welcome back to another video. So as you guys have seen by the title today, I'm going to be sharing something which maybe some of you wouldn't expect, especially considering I speak very positively about Australia, about the country, about how much I love my life here in Australia. So saying I won't be staying here most likely is probably a surprise to a lot of you lot. But in today's video, we're going to talk about why that is the case and whether that is 100% my thinking or whether there's still a part of me which does want to stay in Australia. Before we get into it, make sure you give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, let's get into it. So for a bit of background, I first moved to Australia when I was 21 years old. It was back in April of 2022. It is now September of 2025. That time has gone so fast. I haven't been living in Australia for that whole time. I actually spent time in New Zealand as well. I had to because of the visa. I couldn't be in Australia for a certain amount of time, but I'm now back in Australia. My total time in Australia is just under 2.5 years. Now let's talk about why I most likely will go back. The first reason is the novelty of Australia has slightly worn off. And this isn't anything bad to do with Australia, but this is just completely natural with living anywhere. It's the same with anything new. Look at like a relationship, for example. Then first few weeks, first few months, you're like crazy. It's the same with moving abroad. I still love it in Australia. I appreciate it so much. But that initial buzz that you get when you first move, that first couple of weeks, first couple of months, you are so like carefree because you just made this massive move. Everything's so exciting, especially moving to a big country like Australia. There's so much to travel and so much to see. Having been in Australia for over 2 years, I've literally traveled pretty much the whole country, and there's not really anywhere else in Australia that I want to travel to now. So the excitement of that kind of has gone because I haven't got the urge to travel Australia. Kind of get the urge to travel other places in the world now. And yeah, just that initial excitement, even just getting your first job in Australia and working in Australia is kind of exciting. When you've worked lots of different jobs, had to start in different jobs and new houses, the more you do it, the less exciting it gets. And that's not anything, like I said, negative to do with Australia. That is just life with anything new. It's exciting, very exciting to start with. And then it does become normal life. And whilst I do think I live a better lifestyle in Australia than the UK, it's not quite the same level of excitement as when I first moved, which obviously is natural. But that alone probably isn't a reason just to go back to the UK, because I do still really like it here. There is some other reasons. Let's talk about the honest downsides of living in Australia long term. First of all, it is very isolated. I feel like if Australia was in Europe, I would be way more likely to stay, because it's just a few hours to go home. If you want to travel to other places in Europe, everything's pretty close. Even America is only like a 7 and 8 hour flight from Europe. But being in Australia, you're so isolated from the rest of the world. The first thing's friends and family. Being so far from home means that if you do want to visit, it costs a lot of money and a lot of time. We went home for a visit from New Zealand. The flights cost us quite a bit, and it was literally like 24 hours of flying just to visit home. If you're looking long term, it's kind of hard because we're sort of people that do want to be surrounded by our families. When I say we, me and my girlfriend live here in Australia. We're the sort of people that want to be around our family in the future and our friends. And whilst it was nice going home for a visit, it was very brief. And for that amount of travel time and that cost, realistically, you're only going to be doing that once a year maybe. And to be honest, that's not really enough. And also traveling, like I love to travel, and there's a lot of places in the world that I still want to see. The thing is with Australia is it's tucked away right in its own little corner of the world. Yes, it's close to Southeast Asia and New Zealand and stuff like that. If you want to go to America, you want to travel Europe, which is some of the top places I want to travel to. It's very far from Australia. At least being in the UK, you're pretty much very central, particularly to most of Europe, America, stuff like that. It's way more of an easier place and cheaper place to travel from. Whereas Australia, if you're going anywhere other than Southeast Asia, it's going to be a very long flight, like 10 hours, 12 hours at least. Australia being so isolated is definitely a downside. It's not a downside in the short term, hence why it hasn't affected us being here now. But if you're looking at 10 years into the future, it is quite isolated being here. Next up, and probably one of the biggest reasons we actually won't stay here, is simply because of the visa. I'm on a working holiday visa, and luckily people from the UK can do 3 years in Australia. Honestly, I wouldn't even be in Australia right now if they didn't change the rules. I would have had to do 6 months of farm work, which we didn't do, so we wouldn't even be in Australia right now. But they did change the rules, luckily, which means we did get an extra year in Australia, which is amazing. But once that year is up, we can't go on that visa anymore. You can go on different visas, like student visas and stuff, but I don't want to study, to be honest. I could go into a career and come back on a skilled migrant visa, but there's not a specific career I want to go into. I want to work for myself. I don't want to be a doctor, a nurse, a builder, which would get you into the country. And there is also sponsorship. But again, I don't really fancy sticking in a job in Australia for 3 to 4 years just to get sponsorship, because who's to say that I do 4 years in a sponsorship and then I don't even really want to stay 100%? It's kind of pointless. And with time running out in Australia, we've only got 8-9 months left in Australia. I think we're very focused on just enjoying that. And if we were to get sponsored, you'd have to be in one place and yeah, have to work the whole time. So the visa does make it difficult. Like, if we could do more time on a visa, then we maybe would, or we go home and then come back, do you know what I mean? But the visa now does make it very difficult, and if we wanted to stay, we'd have to look at a very permanent route. And also, I feel like the main reason I would want to live in Australia is because of the sun, the weather, the lifestyle, everything that comes with that. And whilst Australia obviously is amazing for that, there is other countries that offer that are way closer to the UK. So even if it came to the point where we really didn't want to live in the UK for whatever reason, there is countries in Europe like Spain that offer a very similar climate and lifestyle to Australia, which is, to be honest, the main reason I would live in Australia is because of that. And at least being in Spain, for example, you're only like 2 hours from the UK, which makes the whole isolation thing way easier. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I, most likely won't stay in Australia forever. And to be honest, when I first moved abroad, the thought of moving back to the UK was awful. There's an interesting thing which I used to get, and I used to have dreams at night where I would be back in the UK and I'd wake up thinking, oh my God, thank God I'm not back in the UK. I would have that dream on a regular basis that I was back home in the UK, and then I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I'm so glad I'm in Australia. After leaving Australia, we went to New Zealand, and that was quite a long period in which we were quite isolated, and I think that led to us missing a lot of things about the UK. And then moving back to Australia, in the last year or so, I haven't had any of them dreams about being in the UK and waking up thinking, you know, I'm glad I'm in Australia. And maybe that's my subconscious mind saying now that, you know, the novelty maybe has worn a bit off and I'm not as excited maybe. The longer it's been, to be honest, being away from the UK, the more I've started to miss things and actually appreciate the UK. The thought of being at home, being around people, being around my friends, being around my family, being able to go to like events with your friends on the weekend and go on holidays with them. That's the sort of thing which, being abroad for a few years now, I've started to miss now. The first year or two of being abroad, I didn't miss at all. But now, I think I've been away a long time, 3 and a bit years, nearly 3.5 years. So yeah, them feelings are starting to creep in, which is natural. Now, how will I feel about going back to the UK? To be honest, I don't know. I don't know how I would feel. And also, I wouldn't completely write off Australia forever. I'm not saying I'm never going to return to Australia. I'd love to return to travel one day at least. And I'm also not saying that we'll never ever live here again, but most likely we won't. But also, having said that, I don't know how I'm going to feel when it comes to moving back to the UK. Maybe now I like the sound of it because I miss things about the UK. It's been a long time since I was there. And also, I've done everything I want to do in Australia. But I don't know, moving back to the UK is going to be very weird. Luckily, I've got like a year to think about it because obviously we do want to do a bit of travel and stuff after we leave Australia. So I don't know how I'm going to feel when it comes to it. It's going to be a very interesting period. I think I miss it sometimes now, but who's to say that I move back there for 6 months and I instantly really miss Australia? It could be the case, do you know what I mean? That's my kind of thoughts at the moment. Luckily, this isn't anything we're going to do right now. We've still got a good 8-9 months of our visa left in Australia, so you know, we're going to go back to Perth. Yeah, we're not moving back to the UK yet, but I thought I'd explain my thoughts on why in the future we won't probably live here forever. And also raising a family and stuff is kind of isolated if you don't have many close people, because that's one thing I've also found is meeting close friends abroad is a lot harder than you think, especially when you move around as much as we have. It's kind of hard. We've traveled to many different places. It takes a lot longer than a few months with someone to make close friendships, I've found, and often we're only in places for a few months. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Any Brits watching this that have moved to Australia, you might be able to relate to this video. Maybe you felt some similar feelings and having similar thoughts about living abroad. I would still 100% encourage that anyone does move to Australia, because I have absolutely no regrets about moving here, and I still to this day love my life in Australia for sure. I think there's so much amazing things about moving to Australia, and the amount of growth I've seen in myself and things like that is crazy from moving to Australia. So if you are looking at moving, I have released a moving to Australia guide, which I'll leave on the screen and at the top of the description. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you very soon with another video.